What if I told you that this coming year could be your best year yet? Today, we're going to dive into 5 questions you need to ask yourself to position this next year to be a year that is high impact and highly rewarding for you and for those around you. Sound good? Okay, let's do it. Hey friends, welcome back to the Culture Keepers podcast. My name is Kara List. I'm your leadership coach, and here on the podcast, we discuss topics that empower leaders, just like you, to cultivate thriving and connected workplace cultures. And if this is your first episode that you're tuning into the Culture Keepers podcast, I want to say welcome. So glad that you are here to learn and grow with us. And this is a great episode to start with. We're going to dive into these important questions that we need to ask ourselves so that next year can be our best year yet. And if you're looking for something really quick, really accessible, you as a workplace leader want a quick win to start off next year, then I have a challenge for you. It is a 10-day connection challenge. Now, you can do it over the course of 10 days. It's really just 10 connection prompts, good questions that you can ask people in your one-on-ones, in your staff meetings, even just casually in passing, these prompts that you can just have on the ready to use. So there's 10 of them. You can use them here and there, or you could challenge yourself and say, I'm going to focus on one of these each day for 10 days. And that's how I'm going to kick off this next year with a resolve to connect well to my people, to make sure they know that I see them and I value them and I hear them. So go ahead to heycaralist.com/10 days, 10 days, and grab it. Or you can just grab the link in the show notes. Maybe this last year was a great year for you. Maybe you had lots of successes, lots of wins, things went well. Maybe this last year was a year you hope to never repeat. Like it was terrible. Lots of things went wrong, whatever the case was, but it was just a hard year. I'm so sorry if that was the case for you. But I want to tell you that I believe that this next year can be your year. Why do I think that? Well, it's because there's really no reason why it can't be. And I know you might be thinking, well, Kara, you don't know all the variables in my life, right? You don't know about this hard thing in my personal life, or you don't know about this financial struggle, or you don't know about this employee at work that is just so hard. You're right. I don't know those things. But what I do know is that those are external variables. And you can't control those. You cannot control what happens around you. But what you can control is you. You can control the steps that you are taking every single day to be able to handle and manage those external variables well. You can control the steps you are taking to grow in your personal life and your professional life. And you can control the steps you are taking to grow in your leadership skills. P.T. Barnum said, "Comfort is the enemy of progress." And I am feeling that today. I came in here, I sat down in this chair, and it was not pretty. Yesterday, I started a new workout program, getting a head start on the new year, and I certainly overdid it. I cannot walk. It is a sight to see. Like I said, just sitting down in this chair was funny, but it hurts. Like my body, it hurts. And you know this. If you have ever pushed your body or pushed your mind or whatever, you stretch just a little bit, it is not comfortable. But when we are comfortable, it is a red flag to us. It is like on our dashboard blinking at us that we are not growing. Because friends, this kind of growth just doesn't happen on its own. I am one of those drivers that can run the tank to E comfortably. I don't know, maybe I think I have some superpower that exempts me from breaking down on the side of the road because I've never run out of gas on the side of the road before, but I get really close. I know some of you just hear that and you're like cringing. You will never let it get below a quarter of a tank. But friends, I sometimes just find myself getting to that point of almost empty. And And it would almost surprise me if I broke down on the side of the road, which is so silly because the car needs fuel to run. It's just not going to keep running magically on its own. And it's the same thing with us, friends. If we are not putting ourselves in places that are outside of our comfort zone in order to fill us up and to push us, we will break down. We will stop moving. We will stay still and we will get nowhere. But this is hard, right? Growing is hard. And especially growing in your leadership skills is hard. And I think there is one major reason, there's lots of reasons, but one major reason why it's hard is because it costs us something. It often costs us resources, right? Like time and money, especially when we know that these outcomes that we're driving will always compete for our time, right? When we think about the time that we think we have to get all of this done. So how in the world is there time to pour into my leadership skills or to grow in this leadership skill? But I know that those outcomes will never reach their full potential if you are limiting yourself from reaching your full potential. And the hard truth, we spend time and money on things that we can't afford or we don't have time for all the time. Think about cars and houses and clothes or whatever it is that you want. When people really want something, even if they can't afford it, even if they don't have the time for it, they make a way because for them, it's that important to them that they will make an investment in it. I'm coaching a leader right now who is making an investment. We are spending time really working through what she brings to the marketplace, what her brand is as a leader, what her value add is, what she contributes so she can confidently move forward as she sees the road ahead and sees that maybe in the next 5 years, things are going to have to change for her and for her career. We're working through some interpersonal challenges that she is having at work. We are pushing outside of her comfort zone, and she is making an intentional investment. And let me tell you, she is a highly successful leader. But that is what I have really come to see and learn is that people who are highly successful understand that their success doesn't come from sitting on a comfort zone, that they have to keep leveling up. So maybe this last year was just a cruising year for you. Maybe it was a survival year for you. We all know what that feels like. So how can we guarantee that next year will be the year, that this next year will be different? Because we don't want to be comfortable. We don't want to be complacent. We want to grow. We want to have high impact and we want to be highly satisfied, both when it comes to our professional life and our personal life. So do we set goals? There's this big back and forth, set goals, and other people that say, don't set goals, just form habits, right? There's this little battle between whether setting goals is a good thing or a bad thing. Some people are so anti New Year's resolution. And I say yes to all of it. We need to have goals so that we know where we're going. And that way we can create habits in order to get us there. And we also can't really have a destination, a goal, if we don't know where we are right now. I was listening to a Mel Robbins podcast the other day, and she had this just beautiful illustration of, when you're driving to a friend's house and you're close, but you're still just a little bit lost. So you call and you say, I'm almost there, but you got to help me. I don't quite know where I am. I know I'm in the general vicinity. And what is the first question that they are going to ask you in order to help you get to them? They're going to ask, well, where are you? Where are you right now? Because I can't give you instructions until we establish where you are. So it is so important to figure out, where are we right now? And then where do we want to be? Where are some goals? And then within that, we can establish some habits that will get us there. So that even if we don't get all the way there, we have measurable growth throughout the year. Okay, so we've made it. Here we go. Here's how we're going to do it. We're going to ask 5 questions. So if you are in a place where you can grab your iPad and your pen or your notebook or whatever it is, your notes app on your phone, go ahead and do that. If you are going for a walk or driving to work or doing your dishes, then you can listen, you can think about these things, and I'm going to drop these questions down in the show notes so you make sure you can go back and reference them. But here we go. The 5 questions you need to ask yourself to guarantee that next year is your best year yet. Number 1 is, what were my highlights? What were the meaningful moments of this past year? Whew, hard question. Hard question to answer because, friends, can you remember anything specific from last week? How about from June? How about from February? That is hard. And there is so much that happened this last year. So much. So here's a great, easy, practical way to do it. Open up your phone and go to your camera roll and jump back to January of this past year and just take a slow scroll through the year. Write some things down, some things that you totally forgot about. I promise you, you're not going to make it through January without your mind being blown about things that happened or things that you did that were awesome, that meant something to you, that you have already completely forgotten. So I started a new Christmas tradition this year. I'm not a journaler. I wish I was a journaler. I wish I had started journaling 15 years ago. That would have been helpful. But here's what I decided to do. Is I decided to kind of do this exercise for my family. So I went back to January, this last year on my camera roll, and I just started writing out or typing out the highlights as these pictures showed themselves, right? And then what I did is I compiled it into a little story, like a little journal entry about our year as a family. And after seeing that in its entirety, I was able to have some really great insights about what's happened, the ways we grew that I totally miss. I didn't miss, I was here, it was happening, but I didn't have the capacity to have an insight about it because I couldn't see it in its totality. I couldn't see it in its fullness to really capture those highlights. And you know what that led to? It led to a couple things. Great encouragement because I was able to see, wow, especially in some of my kids, look what you struggled with then that you aren't struggling with anymore. I was able to look back on me personally and think about where I was at, like mentally and emotionally at the beginning of the year when we had just moved across the country and I was dealing with a bunch of sickness and just that space I was in and where I am now and how I've built community. I was just able to see so much. So much encouragement. But more than that, it just grew gratitude in me, like so much gratitude. I was so thankful for this last year. And I could have said I was thankful for this last year, but I wouldn't have been able to, in my mind, like pick apart the specific reasons why or what I was thankful for. So whether it is in your personal life or your professional life at work, maybe this is something good to do as a team. Looking back and saying, let's actually go month by month and let's record. Like, let's write down and really think about like what were the meaningful moments, the highlights of this year. And that's where we are. That's where we're building upon. And that can lead you to ask your second question. So the first is, what were the highlights, right? And those could be like anything, good things, bad things, like anything that was meaningful, that had impact, right? The second one is, what were the wins? So this is specifically those highlights that you're super proud of. What were the things that went really well? When we jump into a new year, what we tend to do is look to the next year and think about the things that we currently lack that we want to gain, right? Things we want to change. So we're almost starting ourselves in a deficit and we have totally forgotten that we have established habits and we have accomplished goals in the last year that went really well. And so once we can focus on what those wins were, we can ask ourselves, what led to those wins? Because those things are the things we want to keep doing. We want to replicate what has been proven to work. So before we start stacking up all these new things, these new goals, these new habits we want to build, let's first focus on replicating what we've established this last year, what is going really well. And when we can figure that out and do more of it, we already start the year with guaranteed success. And so now the third question, this is another one where we can kind of take that highlights reel and we can ask ourselves, what was missing. Maybe there are things that align with our priorities and values that we didn't get to or that we missed. And again, this could be personally, but think about your workplace. Like, where did you miss the mark? When you look at the highlights, did you hit your mission and values? How were you maybe out of alignment? You could have accomplished really great things, but were they aligned with your priorities? Were they aligned with your values? And maybe this means there is something that you didn't do enough of, right? Like you need to do more things that align with your priorities and values. But maybe it also means that you need to simplify, that there were so many things that you had diluted results. Rory Vaden says, when you have diluted focus, that leads to diluted results. So maybe it's the time to say, based on what I saw, right? Based on the highlights reel, like what are my priorities? What are my values? And then how do I organize what needs to happen this next year? How do I need to plan for it based on those things, based on aligning well? So I have an example. This is a personal example. Some of you might not know that in addition to being a leadership coach and running this podcast and this business, I homeschool my kids. Super fun, always an adventure. But I tend to overprogram our homeschooling. I love to have lots of ideas. I like to have a really tight schedule. I like to make sure we get all this stuff in, plus this, because we have the luxury to just have all this flexibility. So we can go visit this place or read this book or whatever it is. And I tend to overprogram it. And this kind of matches a theme in my life, which I like to go big or go home, essentially. I like to do it all or nothing. I like to set big goals, or I don't set any goals. So with my homeschooling, I tend to go big. But the problem is, like I mentioned earlier, there are external variables. The kids, right? We could have sickness in the house. And when your kids are attending school, when they're sick, they just stay home and they don't do school. But when they're sick and they're home and they're already homeschooled, you're like, well, shouldn't we just still do school, right? There's all these things that come up, and sickness is just one example, but things that can alter or affect what we get done day to day. So how do I keep from having an all or nothing approach? And how do I protect myself from getting to the end of the day and feeling like I failed, or feeling like that wasn't good enough, we didn't do enough, or whatever things come into my mind to tempt me to wonder or feel guilty about what we did or did not do? And what I had to come to was I had to decide what my homeschool priorities were and what our values were. And then the rest was just extra. So number one is I have to do these things. Like, these are the priorities. If nothing else happens today for whatever reason, then I can end my day feeling like we accomplished what we need to accomplish because I was in alignment. We were with alignment in our family values and our family goals, priorities for our homeschooling. And that provided so much freedom, because then after that, the rest was just extra. It was literally icing on the cake. And do I love to do those things every day? Yeah, and we get to them most days. But if we don't, then I know we were in alignment and there was nothing that I felt like I was missing. And that's that feeling you don't want. You don't want that feeling of, what am I missing? Like, how am I missing the mark? And so that is that third question. You're going to go back and you're going to look through maybe those highlights again and think, what am I missing? What did I not do? Or what did I do that wasn't in alignment with my goals and my values and my priorities? Okay, question number 4, my favorite one. This question is, what are my goals? Really, what would I love to accomplish that is in alignment with my priorities and that is doubling down on my wins, the things that are already going well? So I want you to dream. I want you to dream a little. And here's the thing. People are all like, you got to make your SMART goals. You got to have your SMART goals. And cool. I get it, right? Like you should think about whether goals are attainable. But to me, isn't that just playing it safe? Isn't that saying I'm going to make a goal, but I'm still going to be comfortable? I'm not going to challenge myself to any excessive progress. Like let's just make sure it's attainable. And again, yes, I get it. We tend to despair or quit if we don't reach these goals and we don't want to hit a point of failure. But shouldn't we try? Like shouldn't we throw it out there? Friends, I made a goal for my revenue for this business for next year. If I hit that goal, it will be awesome. That would be amazing. Now, do I necessarily think I can? I'm going to hope that I can. But here's what I do know is that if it is December 1st of next year and I have not hit that goal, you know what I'm doing? I am pressing in. I am digging in. And because of that, I will make it further than I would have had in the first place. So if you don't make it to that goal, to that dream, the way in which you challenged and pushed yourself to get even remotely close will put you far closer than you would have been. So dream a little. Write down those goals personally, professionally. What are they? Maybe there's a new position that you're ready to start pursuing. Maybe you've dropped the ball when it comes to your feedback systems at work and you're saying, nope, we're going to get this right this year. Maybe your one-on-ones have been awesome. And so you want to dig into your coaching skills so that you can improve upon what's going really well in those one-on-one meetings. Maybe you want to just leave the office on time and not check your email at night. Maybe you want to figure out ways to better engage and communicate with employees or coworkers who are in a different generation than you. The list can go on. Do you need more ideas? What about revenue goals for your organization? I'm not just talking meeting the budget. I'm talking about bigger goals. What about new projects, new initiatives you want to start, people you want to hire, new customers you want to serve? Do you want to improve your company's communication? Do you want to go through a rebrand? Do you want to get some existing employees on improvement plans? Do you hear these goals, these dreams? Go for them, friends. Put them out there. Write them down. Personally, professionally. We got to write them down. And then once you do, you can look back at them and say, what is doubling down on what's going well? What is here that really aligns with my priorities and values? And those are the ones you zero in on so that you don't have diluted focus and diluted results. And I always love to throw in there, what's a stretch? What's a dream goal that's a little bit of a stretch? Can't hurt. It can't hurt to just go for it. Okay. And then my fifth question, the last question is, how am I going to get there? We've now established where we are and how we got to where we are. We've established where we're going, the direction we're going. So now what are the daily, weekly, monthly habits that we can put into place to make sure we are headed towards that goal? Hopefully reach the destination, but even if we don't, we'll be closer. How do we make sure we are headed in the right direction? So some questions. What conferences do you want to go to this next year? What books do you want to read? What skill do you want to improve on so that you can schedule that workshop or go buy that course? Will this be the year that you say, I'm ready as a leader to up my game? I'm done being a leader that is surviving. I'm done being a leader that is just getting by, doing fine, but getting by. I want to be excellent for the sake of myself and for the sake of my people. And so this is going to be the year that I get a mentor or a leadership coach. You know, coaching is just allowing somebody to challenge your thinking. Coaches are really the fast pass, right? If you want to break through challenges and hurdles, blind spots you don't even know you have, coaching is the fast pass. That's the way you do it the quickest. And because I believe in this so much, I'm going to offer you a free call, a free leadership coaching call with me where we can get on the phone for 40 minutes and we can discuss your goals. I can ask you some questions to make sure you're actually thinking through this correctly. I can help you think of things that you have not thought of before and provide that quick transformation for you that you need to just get this next year in gear. So I'm going to limit it to 20 calls. So you need to go sign up at heycaralist.com/call call, and I'm just going to accept those first 20 calls. Maybe I'll open it up again later or build a wait list. But go ahead and schedule that free call. And I would love to get on the phone with you and just talk this out with you, help you think through this, and provide you those quick wins. So even if that free call is your step, it doesn't even cost you anything. Friends, it does not cost you anything. What is your excuse? There should be no excuses. So with this fifth question, I want to encourage you, you don't need a comprehensive plan. You don't need this long map of, okay, here are my goals. How am I going to get there? You just need to make a commitment to taking the first step and then either repeating it or doing the next step. Another coach I love says that action equals clarity. So sometimes we don't even know, it's not clear what we need to do next until we do what's right in front of us, until we act. So just act on that first step and then do it again. And then the step after that will become clear. You don't need a full comprehensive plan to act. If you haven't picked that first book you're going to read this year, choose Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's a great book, and he really focuses on building those 1% changes that build upon each other, step after step after step. Not these huge leaps, but these 1% changes. His story is incredible, very inspiring. Go check out Atomic Habits, and that's exactly what I'm talking about here. How are you going to get there? All you need to know right now is what's the first step? What's the first step? And take it. Okay, let's review the 5 questions that are going to make this next year your best year yet. Here we go. The first one was, what were your highlights? Let's be grateful for them. Let's celebrate. And then what are your wins? Let's double down on them. The third, what are you missing? Let's make sure we're aligned with our priorities. Make sure we're aligned with our values. The fourth, what are your goals? What are they? What are your dreams? And the fifth, how are you going to get there? And specifically, what is your first step? There is no reason that you can't look back a year from now and be proud that you did something, that you grew, and most of all, that you didn't choose to stay comfortable. You will thank yourself. You will be so thankful and proud. So friends, what are you going to do next? What's your first step? Maybe it is downloading that free 10-day connection challenge. Maybe it's booking a call with me. Maybe it's something completely different. What is it? If you have that idea in your mind, will you drop it in the comments? Share with us. What are you thinking? What are your goals? If you're watching on YouTube, I would love to hear that in the comments. And friend, if you are listening to this on a podcast platform, would you share it with a friend, someone who you see has so much potential that they can reach? Will you share this with them? It's going to be a great year, and I cannot wait to hear back from you. I hope I do. To hear and see what you have accomplished, even if it's just that one step that took you out of your comfort zone. Friends, I'm always cheering you on, and let's have a great year, our best one yet together.